And we're live. Hello and welcome everyone. It's time for another incredible, wonderful. I keep thinking about new words every week. Another wonderful episode of IT Career in Australia channel. And today's topic is US software engineer. So what's next? So join us for engaging discussion on career progression in software engineering. Our speakers will share their experience and insights on the different paths you can take, where you're aiming for technical leadership, exploring management roles, or considering becoming maybe architect or product manager, or I don't know, project manager. We'll cover strategy for navigating different career groups. So get actionable advice on how to transition smoothly, master new responsibilities, and stay aligned with your career goals in ever-evolving tech landscape. And as usual, please don't forget to introduce yourself in the comments, or at least say hi, because if you're not saying hi, we don't know that you're here. So I'm Jana Martins, if you forgot by any chance. So I'm here every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time, talking with different expert from my IT network. And if you're watching us on LinkedIn, as usual, make sure go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. And also don't forget to join my meetup group, IT Career in Australia, especially if you're in Melbourne, because in Melbourne, we're having a lot of fun and doing tech walking events. In Albert Park and Lake. That's your opportunity to network with people in the industry and hopefully get a bit of the sunshine and shred a few calories walking around the park. So you can also join the Tech Walking Australia group on LinkedIn as well. Rahul is here saying hi. Thank you, Rahul, for saying hi in the comments. So make sure to introduce yourselves, guys. I can see that you're watching. And that's and I always encourage you use these streams not only just to gain some new information, but to network with people in the industry. And you can network with people in the comments, or obviously network with our speakers as well. So that's enough of me. I'm going to pass it on to our speakers to introduce themselves. Michael, please.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Michael Lambert, Head of Engineering at Tipendium. I've been doing this role for, I discovered the other day, 3 years now. Before that, sort of alternated a little bit between being a developer for 25 years, and then in the last couple of years of that started going, I need something different. So yeah, been through that reasonably recently. Managed to find a place where I'm happy. So yeah, hopefully I can shed some light on that for everyone else.
Perfect. And Aditya, over to you.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here. So I'll also try to keep my intro short and sweet. But so my experience has been more than 15 years as a technologist and a builder. I love working on ambiguous problems and greenfield initiatives. I've spent more than 14 years in the US. I did my master's degree over there, worked at companies like Amazon and Tableau. And then I've been in Australia for 5 years. I'm part of the customer success leadership team here at Salesforce. One of my most notable work was incubating and building out the first customer success center of excellence in India. Second part of my career, I've been focused on what it is that's really driving me forward, found my meaning and purpose in helping other people. So I'm also a career coach and a mentor. And my job is to really help people find their ikigai, which is a Japanese saying for what are you good at, what do you care about, and what can you get paid for? Helping you find that intersection is what I like to do. Love being outdoors and playing sport, but I also love to eat. So what weight I gain, I lose, and the universe maintains its balance. So that's just a little bit about me.
Thank you, Aditya. So that's why Aditya coming for tech walking events. Like every time he eats, he knows that he's gonna go for 5 kilometer, 5 kilometer walk around Albert Park. So, anyway, let's dive straight into it. So, guys, whoever's listening to us, would be good if you also share if you're working as a software engineer at the moment and you're thinking maybe to moving to a different career, or maybe you moved. So would be great to hear from attendees. And let's, I guess, just discuss what are some common career paths for software engineers and maybe some less common ones. Maybe let's just start with like common ones. Like Aditya, what do you think the most common career path for software engineer?
The common ones, I think, in my mind are, becoming a software engineering manager, getting into a management role. You've been an engineer for a while and you're good at working with people and you want to lead those people. So that's an obvious one. Another common one would be in the realm of product management, especially if you're technical, you can bring a lot of value being a product manager. Another one is just being a project manager as well. And if you really want to see yourself grow your career over the course of the next 5-10 years, and if you want to stay technical, being an architect, a lot of people move down that path who've been seasoned engineers. So those are sort of the more obvious ones that come to mind.
Michael, anything to add to the most common ones?
Yeah, I think a lot of it varies depending on the type of organization you're working for. The ideas that Aditya just suggested, for me, are all sounding like they're great for like the larger organizations, the enterprises. I've made a career out of small business, software as a service companies, startups, scale-ups. So it's a little bit different. It's generally you'll go through your junior, mid, senior, and then you're like, what the hell do I do now? And you might move over to like a DevOps engineer. Or in my case, I became an infrastructure engineer because I knew a bit about DevOps. I also knew how to maintain the beer tap and the coffee machine, and we considered that infrastructure. There are other people that will move into more of an engineering manager position and very quickly realize that they don't actually want to manage people, they want to manage engineering. So then they start looking at things like a principal software engineer. So I think for a big bit of it is people often feel they're forced into people management when maybe they don't need to be. So I guess for me, there's a whole lot of different options there. Probably segueing a little bit into your next question, what are some of the uncommon ones? I think for me, one of the uncommon ones would be a live stream host.
To be honest, it's not that uncommon. I've seen quite a few software engineers doing great YouTube channels about coding and doing like online courses and having like the whole like that side business around this. I think we had a conversation with Basarat the other day, and Basarat has like, I don't know, over 50,000 more followers on the YouTube and running online classes for like front-end development. So it is, it is maybe not the most common career path, but it is exist.
Yeah, and if I can just add to it, right? I think the career state right now in the world, it's not a vertical ladder. It's a jungle gym, like Sheryl Sandberg puts it appropriately, right? You can weave your career the way you think is appropriate for you at that time of point in your career and your life. Because when you're younger, you might be hungry, you might be thirsty for more, you might be doing a lot more. When you're a little bit older, maybe your values are different. And so I think asking your questioning yourself on what are your values, what's driving you, what's motivating you is obviously key. But some of the more uncommon ones that I've seen, and I'll first share a little bit about my own experience moving into a non-engineering role. So I started off as an engineer. I did that for a few years and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be sitting at my desk all day. This is getting pretty boring for me. I want to work with people. I will like influencing others. I loved working on cross-functional projects and wanting to see things get launched. So a logical fit for me was becoming a technical program manager because that was the role that was available for me at the time when I was working at Amazon. So I took on a stretch project and kind of worked on that to then see, okay, I have theoretically an idea that I like this, but do I actually like it? And I'm actually good at it, right? So I had to test the waters out a little bit before I could dive into it. So some of the uncommon ones, if you think about it, they are more like one thing that really jumps out, and I want to just highlight to people is you don't necessarily have to be technical in a technical space. What I mean by that is you don't have to be attached to like a Scrum team or an engineering team. A role that I work very closely with, because I'm part of customer success in my organization, is pre-sales. Pre-sales engineers, they do some incredible work for our customers. So their role is basically to figure out what are the customers' challenges and requirements, and then how is my company's products going to solve for that? So they do a lot of demos, they do workshops, they come up with sort of proof of concepts for the customers, They partner with the sales team to help figure out how to close that deal and then help those customers get value. So that's just an example of how you can move from a more technical oriented engineering focused organization to more of a business side role, but you're still adding tremendous value because you're technical.
Yeah, that sounds like an
part of that-
unusual, I guess, career path.
I
Moving
think a
to
big
the
part of
customer.
it here is making sure that it's the right move for the right person as well. There's a lot of engineers I know, and I know I'm generalizing, a lot of engineers are introverts. They're never going to be comfortable in front of salespeople. And if they try that, there's every chance they're going to fail. Now, some are going to absolutely love it. They're going to be happy as a pig in mud, and they're going to wish they'd done it 10 years earlier. Others are going to fall flat on their face and go back to development for another 5 years before they have another go at things. And I think that's, for me, when I was working out what's my next step, a really important part of it was being able to explore, being able to really understand what made me tick. I spent God knows how much money going to, personal branding, talking to career coaches, exploring potential fit for me. I've become heavily involved in agile meetups. This is all pre-COVID. It's all died off a little bit now, so it's not as easy for people, but agile meetups. I'm still quite active in Product Anonymous, which is for product owners and product managers. And ultimately, I worked out what made me tick. What did I want to do? What did I want to give back that enabled me to, in my case, put the tools down? I wanted to stop coding. I was sick of it. I still look at it and go, when I have to go, my current job as head of engineering, I occasionally have to go to a sales conference. I have to go and present stuff to customers. And in case any of them are watching, no, it's not that I dislike you, it's just that I hate doing it. It's the most challenging bit for me, but I've learned that in order to get the good and the bad, to get the good, I have to take that bad. And it's accepting that, but knowing that I'm still in a happier place than I was. So I think for me, a big part of it, I took up walking, and I think Jana will probably tell you how much I've managed to walk at, I think at one point I did do, for those in Melbourne, South Yarra to Frankston, about 50 kilometres in a day, because I could. But I used that time to think, to work out what made me tick, what was right for me. And it took 18 months. I was just plodding through life going, I don't know what the next step is. And I finally worked it out what was right for me. So, yeah, I think it's really important to be willing to explore options, but in a way that's not necessarily going to have a negative financial impact, or at least not a negative career impact.
Yes, I think it's definitely like you already mentioned, guys, there is no that linear career paths. They almost don't exist anymore. There is so many options and people moving horizontally and vertically. And now that AI buzz just freaking everyone out, and everyone think that they need to suddenly learn something completely different. So there is so much going on. But from your perspective, what do you think? What are some signs that it might be time for a software engineer to consider career shift? Michael, you mentioned you got sick of coding. Aditya, you mentioned that you start exploring the options. So how do you think, when do you know that it's a time to think about different career moves? Aditya, maybe we'll start with you.
I guess. Okay.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah.
I guess from my perspective, it was I took more interest in the bits of the job that didn't involve code. I started blogging a lot more. I started going to more meetups. I stopped coding as a hobby. That was for 15 to 20 years. I would code all day and get home and code something different for my downtime. And I stopped doing that. And I started going, what else is there to do that means I can stop coding? And as I got more into other things, I realized there's more to life than code. So I therefore wanted to start putting it down more. I also had a couple of really good managers who helped me to see that although my coding skills had plateaued, but they hadn't plateaued at the level I thought they were. They'd plateaued at a level significantly higher than that. And I would be able to give more value to the organization through helping others. And so that sort of got me thinking and got me exploring a bit. And that's why I went and started looking at, do I want to be an agile coach? Do I want to be a Scrum Master? Do I want to do product ownership? all things that are very agile based, because that was the environment I was in, and it's the environment I love working in. So I guess that's part of it. There's also, and I guess another part is, it must be 15 years ago now, I had a career break. I went and worked in a bar, and that's because I literally woke up one morning and went, I do not want to go to work. I don't think I can. And that's the impact work had on me. I wasn't sure whether I would even make it to work that day. So I eventually struggled my way into work and handed in my resignation. And I went and worked in a bar for 18 months just because it wasn't computers and it was unskilled labor. It was great. I now know how to say that applies to the rest of the career, so it's actually good. But yeah,
that's a
when
great
you start
example.
despising your work. Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are really scared to do something like that, because it feels really scary go and do some, unqualified labor, because you feel really scared that you won't be able to go back and you won't be able to, you lose the momentum. So that could be really, really actually doubting for some people. But coming back to that question about what's the sign for moving, Aditya, what do you think? What's the sign for software engineer that they need to think about some career move? Maybe not as dramatic as not be able to come to work and start working in the bar, but what kind of signs do you think for you?
Look, we spend, for many of us, 5 days of the week in this place called the office, right? You have to enjoy at least 70% of what you're doing. My barometer is 70% of glamorous work and 30% unglamorous, and that's a good mix. When that scale tips a little bit for me, that's when I'm like, I got to get out of here, right? I need to find something else to do, or maybe this is not the right fit for me, right? So as long as you when you reach that point where you're not enjoying it, you feel like technology after technology, you've just learned one after the other. You started off as a C# .NET developer, and then now there's Java and there's Angular and React. You've done all of it, but everything just feels like another syntax, and you're just learning the same thing over and over again. And you want to ask yourself, what is it that is your 3 to 5 year career goal? It's a simple exercise. It's all about sitting down and writing down on a piece of paper. It sounds like a really big cliche. It's not. It's very powerful. When I ran into that problem, that's exactly what I did. I wrote down, what exactly do I want to be in 3 to 5 years? That gave me a sense of, okay, I want to actually launch big products. I loved, getting products to the finish line. That's the part of my engineering job also, the release management part of my engineering job. I love that bit. So what are the parts of your role that you're enjoying today, which is slightly outside of the pure engineering realm? And is that something you want to take forward? So there's a couple of things I've done on top of that. There's tools available online, and I'm happy to share that with the folks who are interested. There's a Myers-Briggs personality study. I took that study. It's like a survey. It tells you, based on the questions you answered, what kind of a personality are you? What was important to me to find out is I'm a restless person inherently. So for my type of personality, what type of roles could I excel at? What is going to be effective for me? Gallup has this thing called a strengths finder assessment that tells you what are your strengths? My strength is I'm a maximizer. I have very high standards and I get things done. I have a hustle mentality. And it means I also want to see impact. I want to see customer facing impact. So then you sort of narrow down the scope of, okay, what can I do now, given I've known all of this? So I think it's important to, in some way similar to what Michael said, you need to take the time to introspect and say, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. It feels very monotonous and mundane and repetitive. I think I need to figure out what I want to do next. So that's sort of where I would start. And then, like I said earlier, it's crucial to get a mentor or a sponsor. A sponsor is slightly different from a mentor. A mentor will showcase examples from their own work. A sponsor will tell you, based on what I've seen from your work, these are the career choices that are good for you. Really important. It can be a manager, it can be a colleague, it can be someone in your company in another team. Many companies actually have mentorship programs. So look out there and see if there's anything available and sign up and try to talk to these people. Sometimes your peers will tell you things about you which you didn't know about yourself. Many people throughout my career, when I was more of an individual contributor, they said, why are you not leading people? Why are you not leading teams? Your energy is infectious. You should do this more. I didn't take it seriously. Then eventually I jumped into it and I liked it. And that's why I'm in the business of helping people.
There's a couple of things I'll pick up on in that one. I think it's you mentioned a lot about looking for the mentorship and the like inside your current organisation. I would be very careful with that. Now, this is partly because I've come from some small organisations. You'll find that often there might be hidden agendas in some of that advice where they want you to go in a certain direction to improve their opportunities or the business, as well as having someone in the current organisation, if you choose to take that path, try to find people external to it. They may not see you in the day-to-day, but they'll still hear your passion coming through and everything, and they're more likely to give you somewhat unbiased advice. If you are in a massive organisation, one of the big enterprises, you'll probably find there's people that are well disconnected from you that will give you the impartial advice. I'm always a bit hesitant going to a manager for advice. Having said that, I hope I'm the sort of manager that my team would come to for that advice, because I also know that if they want to go elsewhere, I will help them. I'm not the common type of manager, though, like that. There's a lot of people that'll be like, oh, no, we can't risk losing them. The other bit that you mentioned in there, Aditya, was you said a 5-year plan. One of the challenges I've done to some of the people I've mentored in the past is said, what do you want to do on the morning of the day you retire? Now, it doesn't matter whether they're 20, 40 or 55. You ask that question. And it doesn't matter if they get it completely wrong either. It's just defining a potential endpoint for their career. But from that, you go, where do you have to be in half of that time period to get you there? And then let's halve that again. And then let's halve that again until ultimately we get to what do you need to do tomorrow to reach that endpoint? Now, I know for me, I've said I want to be leading a team of developers, preferably around 500 developers. I want to have built that team from quite small, under 50, to 500-ish. That's what I want to be doing. And then once I get to that point, I'll be like, cool, that's my time. I'm done. I'm ready to retire. Will I ever do it? Probably not. It's a bit of a moonshot. But it's given me the point of, okay, in the next 10 years, I need to be at this point. In the next 5 years, I need this. In the next 2 years, I need this. In the next year, I need this. Therefore, within the next 6 weeks, I need to have done X. So I keep revising that every so often. And that end goal has changed over the years, but I've always been going roughly in that direction. And I think that was a big part of me helping to work out what did I want to do after develop. I was like, I'm sick of this. My goal up until that point had always been I want to die at my desk while coding, preferably of natural causes, but I'll accept murder. That's okay. But once I started saying, no, there's more to life than this, that's when I had to really assess it. So, yeah, a couple of bits there that you made me think about.
No,
I definitely think it's better to have unrealistic goal than no goal at all. Because at least if you have an unrealistic goal, you can what they say, if you can't run to a goal, walk to, at least lay down and look at the direction. So there's definitely motivation just in terms of setting the goal. It's already helped you to move in some sort of direction. And I just want to make a quick note here. Aditya, you mentioned about that, sometimes people can give you advice that you don't expect and you don't see something yourself. And here's a life example here, because when COVID hit, I had to change jobs and I was thinking about, different opportunities, and I was talking with the different people about what they're doing in their roles and things like that. And then I asked Michael, Michael, what do you think I should do? And he's like, oh, I think you need to go to tech recruitment because you have so many people in tech. So there's a live example right here of someone who just knew me for a while and have nothing to do, I guess, never worked with me before, just sort of, been part of my network for some time, gave me just really good advice. And here we go. I've been in talent acquisition now for last 4 or 5 years. So that's some examples how it can happen in life, so that the people can see some of the opportunities for you that you might be just not even looking at.
No, I think you actually raised an important bit there, Jana, where you've gone into the talent acquisition side, not the recruiting side of things. And I know that you did try the direct recruiting side of things for a bit, and you found it wasn't for you. So although I gave you an idea, you still molded it to what was right for you. So it's take the core of someone's idea when they give you that advice and run with it in the direction that feels right for you. So if someone had told me, I've had a few people tell me I'd be a great agile coach, but I've then molded that into I want to be a head of engineering or CEO that's a type of coaching and mentoring type leader. And that's what's right for me, because there's more to it than just that. And so I think that's important. Make sure you put your own spin on other people's advice.
Yeah, and Yana, the one thing I'll add is, look, there's no one path, like I said earlier, right? But you can try, and you can try through even without having to, like Michael quit his job and he had the privilege to do that. Maybe he had enough savings to be able to try something like that. Not many people can do that. Or maybe they don't have the guts to do that, right? So you can't, everyone's different. But in some companies, I'm not saying all companies, there are these secondments and stretch goals and rotational projects and things you can try. It's good to just understand it from your organization's perspective. Is that a possibility? When I transitioned from an engineer to a technical program manager, I took on a stretch project. Yes, I did have to work extra hours, but my career was important to me. So you're in charge of your career at the end of the day. So you have to do the hard work. There is no shortcut. You have to do the grunt work. So when I launched that project, at the end of it, I had the assurance and the commitment from them. There are no guarantees. There's only assurances and commitments that they will help me transition to that role. Again, it worked for me. There might be some companies where you can make this happen, and some companies, maybe those opportunities don't exist. But it's always good to, in my company, for example, we talk about career very seriously. We do we do a check-in on a quarterly basis. In my previous companies also, it's been the same thing. And we have an individual development plan where we write about our career plans, where we want to go, what do we want to do, and things like that. Again, depending on the maturity of the organization, you may or may not have this, but that's usually a good anchor for you to have a difficult conversation with your manager and be able to talk about how you want to leave the team, but you're not wanting to burn the bridge, but you're just doing it because your career is important to you and you just want to build those stepping stones to reach there.
Definitely. We have quite a few people actually say hi, and I didn't say hi back. Hisan is here, Buell is here, James here, another James here. Jake have a few comments here. Same thing happened to me. Support was getting me nowhere. I decided to retrain to mental health. Building professional relationships is key to opening new opportunities, and of course all come to tech walking and build this relationship. Guys, whoever is listening to us, please make sure we have time for the questions from the audience as well. So if you're in a situation and when you're choosing your career path or just want to ask any questions, make sure to pop them in the comments. But continuing our conversation, maybe guys, you can share like some specific examples of someone, maybe obviously you already talk about your journey, but what other interesting career changes you've seen from your connections, and how these people maybe turn it, make this turning point?
Perhaps I can use an example of someone I used to work with. They moved on from the company I was with well before I did. I then moved on a couple of years later. And they reached out one day and said they'd been at that new company for, I think, about 3.5 years. And they'd gone in there as a high end of junior, low end of mid-level dev. They'd worked their way up and they were now effectively the tech lead for the team. And they were like, I don't know what to do next. There's no logical next step that will keep me on the tools. And so we started talking about it and worked out what do they really want. And the biggest problem for this person was he didn't know what he wanted. But while we were talking, an opportunity came up at his workplace where one of their agile team people had left. I think it was a scrum master for the team had left. And I said, is that something you consider? And he's like, I don't know whether I'd enjoy it. So I suggest to him, go and have a chat to your manager, go and have a chat to the hiring manager for that role and go, can you put me in that position and we'll give it a go for 3 months. And if it doesn't work out, I go back to my old position. If it does, then you backfill my old position. And the person turned around and said, that's a fantastic idea. After 6 weeks, he said, this isn't for me, but there was another role that had cropped up. So he tried that one. I think he went through 4 roles doing that. And then he found one that suited him. And then he said, right, now go and backfill my other position. They're, oh, we did that months ago. You were just going to continue job hopping till you found what you wanted next. So in that case, he was in a large enough organization that he could jump around and try things. I've been in other
that's great
organizations.
if the organization can do it. And but also, like, it's about, you know, going and asking these questions, because I think a lot of people, again, they just don't go and ask, like actually go and ask, can I do it? Because sometimes people feel like, oh, if I'm changing the role, it's something like, you know, constant, like, you know, I'm on this career path and then now I'm taking this career path, and it feels like a big change. But this is a great example. You don't need to feel like it's a great change. You can try something and you can, you know, come back.
And I know a lot of people on that side of things are very reluctant to go and talk to a manager or a senior leader saying they want to try something else, because they think that it might show that they're not happy or they're not loyal, and they think it might put their job at risk. What you'll find this, and you don't really learn this until after you're in management or, you know, talent acquisition type role where Yana is hiring people is really expensive. Like, if you think it's expensive paying wages, go and hire someone and you'll realize how expensive it can be. So recruitment fees can be anything up to 20% of your year's wage. Then you've got the lost time because you're training someone up. Then you've got the unsettling of the team because there's someone new in there and someone's leaving. And so if you say, I would rather stay here and just move to a different role, they avoid all the recruiting costs. They avoid the onboarding expenses. There's a little bit of training, but it doesn't upset the apple cart as much. So as a manager, it means that I've just saved $20, $30, $40, $50,000 worth of expense. So I'm going to support you in moving into that role in the hope that I get to keep you and that you don't get bored and go elsewhere.
Especially if you can suggest someone for the backfill and say,
yes,
I know someone who can be good for my current role, and I'll go and try this role. That will be like, you know, perfect.
Yeah, so have confidence to reach out to those senior leaders and go, I want to try something different. Again, that's if you're in a large enough organization. If you're in a company like I'm in where there's 10 staff, you're not going to get it. I'm going to go, I'll help you find somewhere else. If you're in a company with 200-300 staff, there'll be options. If you're in a big enterprise with thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of staff, then they're going to say, we have a process for that, and here's the paperwork. So there will always be an option though that will come out of it.
Aditya, over to you. Any examples that comes to your mind?
Yeah, there's one personal and then one from somebody else I used to work with. So I was a technical program manager for a little bit. I was going well, but then my team was going through a major restructure and change. So I said, okay, I need to go, to another team and try something else. But they didn't have the same role, but they had a role that could use some overlapping skills. A lot of the stuff, the technical program management role, if you think about it, is a very broad role. You can either really index heavy on the TE or on the PM side of it, or you could do a bit of both. So I had done roles which made me flex in both. So I could go technical to the extent to which I understand, I have a working knowledge of the systems, I can have a conversation with engineers, or I could be really strong on the PM side where I could do stakeholder management effectively. I can influence without authority and things like that. Now, the role that I got into was a marketing manager role. I had to head the paid search and SEO program, which is completely different from anything I've done before. I wanted to try it because I wanted to move into that team, because that would be a stepping stone for me to get into the right organization. This was within Amazon's retail business. My team built the first free one-day pickup experience across all of Amazon for Prime benefits. Until then, Prime was free 2-day. So it was a path-breaking experience for me. I was really stepping outside the comfort zone, but I knew that about 50% of my skills could be reused. And I knew that, like, I think to Michael's point, the company was big enough. Worst case, it doesn't pan out. I can still come back to being a technical program manager, which I'm good at being. So I always had that fallback. Now, I think the important thing to keep in mind is for anyone to entertain you, to be able to give you that opportunity, you need to have a really strong performance review. You need to have gone through at least 1 or 2 years of really strong performance. You need to be a top performer for them to feel like, I will take a bet on this person, right? They're not going to do this for anyone and everyone, right? So it's important that you have that trust built where they have seen that you're dependable, you're loyal, You're someone that they can trust and someone they are interested in grooming and growing, because the large vision for them is they would rather you be in the company than leave the company. So it's a good sign when we can work it out like that. The second example that comes to mind is someone I knew, and by the way, he's just doing so well right now. He's a CEO of a company now, and he started off at the same level as me. But he quickly wanted to get into product management, and I asked him, like, why do you want to get into product management? Why not? Like, I moved into technical program management, and that was my mojo. So I said, why product management? He said, I want to be the CEO of a company. I want to start my own thing in the future. That's my 10-year goal. So for that, this role is not going to cut it. I need to be the mini CEO of the product, which is what they call product managers. There's a book called Grokking the Pre-M Interview. It's an exceptional book. I highly recommend that people read that, regardless of what role you're in. It will give you some tremendous insights. So he moved into that role, became a senior PM, became a principal PM, PM manager. And then once he was high enough, then he said, you know what, I'm going to quit now. I'm going to go start something on my own. He found a bunch of his buddies and they got together, venture capitalists, got some funding and did this. But he told me that when we reflected back, that he couldn't have done that by purely being an engineer. There's no way. He needed those skills that would have taken him through the organization, understand all the different functions within the company, marketing, sales, support, and everything else, legal, and all of that needs to come together to make that happen. So goes back to really, what do you want to do in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, the goalpost can move. No one has it figured out. My goals kept changing. My 20s, my goals were very different. I was running. I was, I wanted to really go and achieve everything. I worked on some path-breaking initiatives. But now, as I'm much older, I want to slow down a little bit, take life a little bit more easy. I want a more fuller life, and that value changes. So, but it's important to keep accountability of the goals. And if you can't keep yourself accountable, have somebody else do it. It could be a friend, it could be a spouse, it could be a colleague, but have someone who you can have that kind of accountability with, because otherwise we won't hold ourselves accountable through the race of life itself.
Be careful about doing your spouse as a accountability person.
If it works for you. I'm not saying it works for everyone. Depending on your relationship, there's a big fine print over there. But you know what I mean, though. You know the idea.
Yeah, we have a question from James. We have like 3 Jameses today watching our live stream. So one of the James is asking, hi, I'm really enjoying the talk. What career advice might you give to someone who was retrenched early in the IT career and might want to pursue a different path to what they started?
The bit that leaps out to me is if you've just been retrenched and you're thinking of following a different path, just do it. What have you got to lose? You don't have a job. I would go for it. I guess I think there's probably a whole lot of context around this question that we're potentially missing. How, like, early in your IT career, how early are you? Was this a recent retrenchment? Was it years ago that you were retrenched and you're now thinking, did I do the right thing? And what are you looking at moving into? If you've got an idea of what path you want to follow, then work out how you can get there. It might be that to get to that path, you actually decide you need to take 2 or 3 steps and have other jobs. And you might stay in them for, I don't know, it could be you stay there for months, weeks, years, who knows, in order to get to that ultimate goal. But I think we're perhaps missing some context, but assuming that I've just been retrenched and I want a different career, then go for it.
It's a good opportunity, because I think sometimes that's another thing. Sometimes we stay in our current jobs too long too, because it's just too scary to leave. But if you get redundant or something happened, it's actually someone make a decision for you, so it's so much easier. I'm like, oh my god, then I can go, and that's my opportunity to go to explore other options. So sometimes it's actually easier than someone make a decision, rather than you have a cushy job and everything seems fine, and you really need to pull yourself out of this comfort zone and make decision to move somewhere.
Yeah, and if you're in, depending on the job you're in, if you're too comfortable there, you might find that it's actually really hard to interview elsewhere, because you don't recognize your own skills. You don't have the confidence, because I just do the same thing every day. You might be an absolutely gun developer, and you go out for an interview and you're there going, oh yeah, I just don't have the confidence for this. And so you never leave because you've underestimated your skills.
My take on this is, ask yourself why. Why do you want to change your career? Like, people get made redundant all the time. Doesn't mean you have to change your career. I would be curious to understand why, what's driving that. Is this just an inflection point where you're like, the retrenchment just made you introspect and say, okay, I've been wanting to leave this, I've been wanting to try something new. Now the universe has forced my hand and I have to do it. If that's the reason, yes, it's a golden opportunity to reset, reevaluate, and figure out where you want to go. Go slow before you go fast, right? But if it is still an area of interest, you still enjoy doing that work, then it's just a matter of regrouping and just figuring out what's next for you in a different company. At the end of the day, these are all just different organizations, different companies. Without us having to attach too much value to all this, we just go where we want to go based on our aspirations.
I think there's one bit that I just want to pick up in both of our language. I think we've all been saying, you've been made redundant. No, you haven't been made redundant. Your role has been made redundant. It's no reflection on you. It's you're just the victim of a role disappearing. So don't take it personally. It's no reflection on you.
And I just want to say, guys, whoever is following this channel, we had quite a few topics covered related to this. We have a topic about actually what to do, next when you get redundant. We talk about it with Vesa, I think it was like just before COVID. And we had quite a few topics about some career transition. So if you're curious about any particular career transition, we have some topic about moving to Scrum Master and moving to product and from project to product. So just make sure to scroll. And this is actually one of my favorite ones with Lindsay. We talk about moving from that individual contributor to management role. And basically, I really remember Lindsay words, and he said, when you're moving to management role, you're not, it's not a promotion, it's a career change. So just something to think about. And there's definitely quite a few previous live streams you can watch to if you're looking for some specific transition. But I want to ask you,
I was just going to say, Jan, you kind of led into a really good segue there, I think, which is, for me, one of the things you should be asking, we're talking a lot about what's your next step after being a software developer. I think just before you take that step, there's one question you really do need to ask, and that is, do I want to stop being a software developer? Am I unhappy with the job, with the act of developing software? Or am I perhaps unhappy with the size of the organization I'm at or the product that I'm developing? You might just want to, if you're working for a large organization, maybe you should be working for a smaller one. If you're working for a small one, maybe you should be working for an enterprise. If you're working on a bit of Windows software, maybe you should be developing a website for someone. There's a lot of options out there. Make sure that you're not just there going, I'm sick of the product that I'm playing with. I'm sick of the thing that I'm developing. I'm sick of the organization I'm in. Make sure I'm sick of software development, cool, time to move on. If you're not, then probably stick with it a bit longer, because you'll find that you'll very quickly be like, I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be a leader. I want to go back to being an individual contributor. And it's hard to take a step back again.
Yeah, definitely. We have a question from Rahul. Aditya, maybe we'll start with you on this one. Rahul is like, how do you stay aligned with your career goals and adapt your path in the field that's constantly evolving, especially with emerging tech like AI and cloud computing? We talk about the goals changing as well, but sometimes it feels like it's changing too quick, too often, all the time, especially with all the buzz. Everyone talk about AI. So how do you stay aligned with your career goals?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, because the pace of change is extremely rapid right now. With the advent of ChatGPT and AI, generative AI, things have rapidly progressed. I mean, my suggestion would be stay current, stay in the know in terms of what's happening around you. Not everything you don't need to jump at everything that comes at you, because people have a tendency to have sometimes FOMO, right? Oh my God, everything is going too quickly. I might not be catching up fast enough and whatnot. I think it's okay if you're not an early adopter. It's okay. We can let things settle down for a little bit and figure out once you so having that growth mindset is important, right? That you're constantly learning. But as you go along, you will figure out which parts of it actually make sense for your career, which one would you want to actually augment into the work that you're currently doing. Some of that will automatically flow into your work, into your office work itself, and some of it will be more future looking for you. So I feel like staying current obviously is one of it, and then making sure that your career goal, you shouldn't lose sight of what it is you're trying to go to. And if that has changed, the technology that's coming around you should not be the reason why that changes. This is a way to augment your career goals. It should not replace it. If it's replacing it, then you have to ask yourself, why did I set this career goal to begin with? So certifications are good to generally augment and beef up your profile. If you're in that position where you're trying to look for jobs, like you're happy in your job, but you feel like you could use a better opportunity, better pay, things like that. Obviously, these buzzwords like AI and cloud computing, you could put them on your resume, put them on your profile. There's like certifications and low-hanging fruit that you can go and take advantage of, which will help you at least get a foundational knowledge of what these things are, so you don't feel like, oh my God, I have no idea what people are talking about. And then you can also explore on top of that. Like if you look at a lot of the buzz right now is around prompt engineering. Take a course, go to a conference, see what they're talking about. Is that appealing to you? Is that in line with the existing work that you're already doing? Is that something that really piques your interest and say, oh my God, this is something that's truly amazing. I'd like to learn more about. So having an open mind without trying to go solution it and just be like, I'm going to go jump into this. I'm going to leave everything I've done behind. This is the new thing. I'm going to catch on to it, and I'm just going to try to wrestle with it. That is not going to be productive.
I think also the concept of career goals is probably more technology agnostic. I don't recall ever saying I'm going to be the best Perl developer out there, or I'm going to be the best PHP developer out there. I do recall saying I'm never going to be the best Java developer out there, but for those in the software as a service industry, you're probably understanding that one. I guess for me, it's the career goals have never been linked to any given technology. Also, I think we have to really pay attention to how tech, though you're talking about emerging tech, most of it isn't really that new. It's all been around in some form for quite a long time. Cloud computing, well, if we go back far enough, we find there were mainframes. Everything was centralized on a mainframe. You had minor amounts of compute power in front of you. Then that kind of merged to, we've got a client server model. Most of the compute power is on the client. We're working on it sort of on our desk, and then we're shipping some data back to the server. Now we've started going a little bit back towards, let's put everything in the cloud again. There's no such thing as the cloud. It's just someone else's computer. So we're now trying to find that balance. So that's not really a new technology. It's new terminology for existing stuff to make it sound cool again. AI, you can trace it back. It wasn't long ago, and it was all about machine learning. All of AI is just grabbing something from somewhere else, rehashing it in a certain way, and using huge amounts of logic and compute power to determine how that should be presented. It's almost just machine learning is now programming the machine learning. So it's a self-fulfilling, or it's fulfilling its own destiny in a way as it's doing it. And so when the bugs creep in, they just continually evolve and add to themselves. So I think there's a certain amount of, there's new languages that come out. There's new ways of doing things. There's no major step change. There's just good marketing around some of these terms. So your career goal probably won't change that much due to technology. It will change because you mature, you get older, you have a different view on the world, your interests change. But you might shift your end goal, but yeah, I guess that's the technology won't impact it that much.
Perfect.
And
Guys,
Jana, one more thing on the
yeah.
topic of, just a very quick point on the topic of, we talked a little bit about earlier. If you move into a management role, then what do you do? What if you don't like it and come back? I've seen enough number of times where people have done that and they've come back to being an individual contributor and say, you know what, I'm in my 40s or 50s. I don't want to be leading teams. I don't have the energy to do this. I want to be just at my desk. And you'll see that happen as well. You might have started off with, I want to be at my desk doing coding, and then you'll try a bunch of things out and then you'll come back to it. And I think the point I'm trying to make is just have an open mind. And it's not like you go into one path and you're going to be stuck. You can weave your way back. It's like you rode your bicycle, you haven't ridden for 15 years, but you will ride back again. It's muscle memory. You will find, you might be a little bit rusty, you might have a little bit of a shakiness there, but you can come back. So it's not as terrorizing as it appears to be as far as career. It might sound like a really big word, but there's amazing ways to weave around it. And we live in an amazing age where there's tons of resources available, tons of people who are willing to help out as well. So it's us just having an open dialogue with ourselves in terms of what matters to us.
Yeah, I think one of the bits I was trying to hint at there was not so much about it being challenging for us as an individual to go, this management thing, this leadership thing is not for me. I want to be an IC. It's convincing the hiring manager that you actually want to do this and that you've recognized your mistake in taking that step and you're actively moving back, not going, that didn't work out in this employer. I'm going to fall back to what I know. So making sure that they understand it's an active one. One other thing, just kind of looping back to where we started, Yana, you asked for what's some non-traditional roles that programmers and stuff can fall into. Not strictly about software development, but one of my father's friends did, I think it was about 35 years working for one company in the same industry, worked his way up, finally got to a leadership position, finished paying off the mortgage, rocked up to work and said, I can't do this anymore, here's my resignation. On the way home, he went and bought a dump truck and a front-end loader and enrolled in a truck driving course. And he's been doing earth moving for 20 years after that and has no idea, no desire at all to retire. So sometimes the non-traditional thing is just give up the office job entirely. It's not right for some people. So, yeah.
I think the hot job at the moment, electricians or plumbing. Guys, or tiling. If you want to do tiling, you will never run out of work, So there's so many jobs out there at the moment that there's actually in shortage. I'm not encouraging everyone moving to these jobs from IT, but sometimes you'll be surprised. There is actually quite a few completely different jobs out there. And yeah, but to be coming back, I think the main thing, it is scary sometimes just to drop something like this, especially, Michael, in your example, the person already paid off their house, closed the mortgage and took the steps. But sometimes it's just really scary to take the steps when you have a mortgage-free kids, private school fees to pay. So, and that's what usually kind of stop us from taking these transitions. But I think we definitely discuss a few more subtle ways of how you can explore and move and think about your skills and keeping that end goal in mind. Yeah. And I'm cautious about the time. We already did 53 minutes of our stream. I think it's time to wrap up. And the exciting bit of the stream is the virtual giveaway. Yes. So the virtual giveaway is a 30 minutes virtual coffee chat with our speakers. I'm going to do the announcement for next week, and guys will choose someone to have a virtual coffee chat with. And next week, it's November. Oh my God, it's already November. So it feels like Christmas, yeah? So next week, 6th of November, Wednesday as usual, we're gonna talk about different role in IT industry, business analyst, and we're gonna talk about the difference of business analyst and tech business analyst. Yes, sounds the same, but are they actually the same job? So we're gonna explore it next week with Abby, Rochelle, and Ajay. So especially for those who may be thinking to move to this role, will be a really useful conversation to understand what's actually the difference when you business analyst or technical business analyst, or maybe data business analyst, or whatever the job titles out there these days, or agile business analyst. So yeah, the titles could be quite confusing. So anyway, Aditya, who are you having a virtual coffee chat with?
I think Rahul would be my pick.
Rahul, make sure we're connected with Rahul on LinkedIn. I'll make sure I connect you guys. Michael.
And well, I think the other one who was quite active was Bull. So
yes, the James as well. So the real name is James. James, make sure.
James.
I'm not sure if we connected on LinkedIn. Make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn so that I make sure you get your virtual coffee chat. And James is saying 6th of November is my birthday. Here you go, James. I'll try to remember to say happy birthday next week. And I try not to be offended if you don't rock up on the stream on your birthday and choose to do something else. That's completely fine. Thank you for being here. Almost every week, and hopefully to see you on the tech walking event as well, and everyone else. Yes, whoever is in Melbourne, guys, hope to see you in Albert Park on 17th of November. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. Great discussion. I'm sure everyone gets some great insights from today's conversation, and I'll see everyone next Wednesday. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Lovely being here.
Thank you. See you.